Okay, my darlings. So, um, um, where are we with this experience? So, I was looking at um, Tatler. Tatler is very interesting. I like Tatler. I like it because it's glamorous without being, it's balanced. I think it's somewhat balanced in comparison to a lot of other media coming out of. I'm assuming this is in England, and so and the information seems to be well edited and well presented, So it's a new discovery of mine. So I've been coming to this website quite a bit lately. And they were talking in this particular article about Queen Camilla's um, jewelry. It seems like in Germany she wore quite a bit of jewelry that is or was part of the Queen's collection. She wore a tiara that once belonged to, I don't know, was it Queen Mary? She wore a diamond necklace that belonged to Queen Elizabeth. And apparently she wore this Queen Victoria brooch. I mean, these looks like things I would buy for like $2.99 at like wherever I buy them. But these are the real deal, these are the real deal. And so Camilla has been really, decking out in joy. Here's what I would say about Camilla. I mean, I know everything that's been said about her and so on and so forth. I think she's gotten more beautiful since she married Prince Charles. And even though she is very wrinkled with white hair, I think she's more beautiful now than she was in her 30s and 40s when Diana was still alive and she was carrying on with Charles behind Diana's back. And I love Diana. I'm a Diana girl. I have, I don't have a lot of respect for a lot of the things that it seems Camilla has done. For example, not speaking out when that guy called for people to throw excrement at Megan. Um, but, and there's always a but, I try to, every now and then, I remember that everyone is human. I'm human. I'm not perfect, and nobody else is perfect, and that I don't have the right to judge anybody else. So sometimes when that clicks in my head, I'm like, okay, well, Camilla is not so bad. And I think she's much, much more beautiful now than she was when she was younger, which is ironic because for some people, you have a wrinkle and it means that you're ugly. Wrinkles are ugly. And for me, that's not the case. I mean, I don't want to be wrinkled like this for a while, but Camilla is 75 years old. So at 75, if you're wrinkled, I think you've earned your lines, right? Life has happened. You've had a lot of experiences, and now this is what's left. And most people, a lot of people don't live that long to get wrinkles. I think we have this strange perception in life that none of us wants to die, but we expect to stay looking young forever. None of us wants to die, but if we're going to live and not die, it means we're going to get old. And getting old means you're going to have white hair, you're going to have lines in your face. But we make this into the most ugly, most negative thing. It's like, don't die, but don't age. You know what I mean? We can't sort of have it both ways as yet. As yet. I think the day will come when, somebody who's 75 like Camilla will look like they're 30. And I don't think that day is very far in the future. I think there already probably are quite a few people who are 75 and who look like they're 30. Um, but it's not Camilla. And for me, it's okay. I mean, it's not the worst thing that she could have done is to look like a woman who's been here a while. That said, just so that I avoid becoming a Camilla fan or something, God forbid, we've got to critique her on all this jewelry. I mean, what is going to happen to this jewelry? Is she going to then pass it on to her daughter and granddaughters? I don't think she can because I think some of this stuff is owned by England. It's not owned by the monarch. It's really sort of some of it anyway. It's owned by the state. But I'm sure not all of it because when the queen died, she left her personal estate to her son Charles because he was the firstborn. So some of this stuff very well may have passed to Charles as an inheritance as part of his private collection, which he then gave to his wife because obviously he can't wear these things. And can we blow this up? He can't wear these things, and as a consequence, who is going to wear them? His wife is going to wear them, and then the question then becomes, what does the wife do with these things? Does she then pass these things to her daughter and granddaughter, or does she give them to Kate as the next queen? Again, I think if some of these things, maybe not the tiara, but some of the jewelry might very well have been a part of the queen's private collection, it means that Charles inherited a lot, over $800 million from the queen in property, cash, jewelry, etc. And that if that is the case, some of this stuff would go to his wife, without any obligation to return it to the state. And the wife can then pass these jewelry pieces that were owned by the queen on to her daughter and granddaughter. And who knows, in 20, 40, 50 years, where those end up. Some of these things are going to be auctioned off because there are going to be people in the line of the family who will need money. So they will, sell it. Some might be put in museums. Her daughter has an art gallery or whatever. you know, not all of this is going to be kept forever as family heirlooms, but some of it is just going to be family heirlooms going into Camilla's line of the family and not through William and Kate and Meghan and Harry, which is interesting. I mean, it's very, very interesting. There's this whole dynamic with this marriage. And if Charles lives another 20 years, it remains to be seen what the British monarchy looks like by then, by the time Charles and Camilla are done with it. What does William inherit and what does William's children, like his daughter, inherit? Because I'm sure William would have loved to inherit a lot of the Queen's, his grandmother's things through his father because he feels like he's the firstborn and he's the heir and these things should rightly go to Charlotte, some of the jewelry and so on and so forth. But I don't necessarily think it's going to work that way. I think that because Camilla is now going to be queen and is queen and she's now, you see what she's doing here. She's taking control, right? She's taking ownership, management, and control over a lot of these things. And some of them, because I think they are privately owned, will go to her daughter and granddaughters and not to Charlotte, most definitely not to Lilibet or and for that matter, Meghan and Kate. So Kate being the next queen will inherit whatever William inherits that is state owned, but not necessarily what, personally belonged to the queen by that point. All of those things would have been transferred by will to Camilla's line because these belong to Camilla. Her husband gives them to her unless he gives them conditionally. He gives her like a life estate or whatever you call it. She owns it for life and then it passes to his grandchildren. But how do you say that to your wife? You can only have these for life. I don't think Camilla is going to let that stand. She's going to make sure it is official that these are gifts to her personally, and then she's able to bequeath these gifts to her daughter and her granddaughters. And it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. This woman played a game like I have never seen, and she won. And, you know, I know that Harry doesn't, whatever, whatever. And I mean, Harry's my boy. But, I can't really say that I'm not a little bit impressed with how she was able to pull this off, because I'm one of those ugly girls in the world. I mean, we don't, nobody expects much from us. If a woman is not beautiful, Princess Diana was breathtakingly beautiful, Kate is beautiful, Meghan is beautiful, these are beautiful women, so of course they're going to get the best. Nobody expects a woman like Camilla to get a king or a prince. At that time he was a prince, because she was so ugly and she was so plain and she was lacked style and this and that. And she got the king. And look at the transformation in this woman. So, I mean, it's kind of like a victory for ugly girls or plain girls. And I kind of like being one of those ugly, plain girls myself. I mean, I can't completely hate her. I'm kind of a little bit impressed. Like, wow. But at the same time, I do think, oh my God, all those jewels and all that jewelry, that collection, what is she going to do with it? See you in the next one.